Hi, my name is Jessica. I am currently working on a remodel in my mother's bathroom. I've already installed the cabinetry and stuff like that. That stuff's pretty simple. My biggest issue has been the toilet. So I haven't seen a lot of different information, and for whatever so what I'm hoping to do is at least assist people in installing the flange, since I've been having some massive issues with it. Basically, when I used the old flange, the new toilet sat 3/4 of an inch over the tile in our bathroom, and it wobbled the toilet, and I needed three of the, which I'll show you. I needed three of the wedges to be able to actually get it to even out. I tried weather stripping to put around it so that way I could try caulking it, but that did not work whatsoever, so trial and error. So I decided I'm just going to put a new flange in. So I went to Lowe's and I got a flange, and for whatever reason my camera doesn't want me to turn this around, so I'm gonna just pause it for a second. So this is my piping. I removed the flange. How I did that was, first I put paper towels down there to collect any debris, although I did put my hand down there because I got some chunks in there and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm supposed to do that. So what I did to get that off is, they say online to use a chisel. I just used my flathead screwdriver with a fine tip point, and I used my hammer, and then I bought a PVC pipe cutter that fit inside the pipe. Good to actually look at that. Make sure when you actually are buying the flange that you actually measure the inside of the actual flange, the old flange here, so that way you have a better idea for the diameter. Now my issue now is that this is too long, so I couldn't find any instructions anywhere for whatever reason, so I've made a line of about an inch, and I'm going to cut that with the pipe cutter. Luckily, because it's a straight blade like that, it actually kept even all the way around. It's an inch all the way around, so I'm going to cut that, and then I'm going to do a dry fit to see whether or not it's going to go to the floor, so that way it actually sits on the floor instead of 3/4 over the floor, because I'd like to go to the bathroom without being rocked to sleep. I know it's pretty disgusting around here. You definitely want to clean that up. I'm going to clean that up a little bit more. I was getting the piping out and whatnot, so I'll be back. Okay, so I cleaned up around the flange. Now I'm going to go ahead and make my cut and then dry fit it. So I was doing a dry run. I had already cut the PVC so an inch with this tool, and when I was doing the dry fit, it was coming up 3/4 on this side and a half on this side. Now my biggest issue is that it's been 3/4 off the ground and my toilet hasn't been even, and it's been wobbling. I never sealed it because I recognized the problem beforehand, so I never finished the job. So my thought process is that I'm going to take out these 4 tiles. I've gotten approval from my mother. Also, this is jagged, which I think is also playing a key role of it not sitting correctly. So hopefully I don't jack it up. And I will be back after I do that. Okay, so I tried using my chisel. That didn't work. But just hammering the shit out of it actually worked. So I cleaned up around This, the lip on the new flange is about 1.5 inches, so I just went around it 1.5 inches, a little over, so that way it would fit. I'm going to actually take some sandpaper in the inside here and around the flange, again, to take some of that purple primer off, so that way I can kind of do it again. And then I'll do a dry fit one more time, make sure it goes down a little further, and then I'll be ready to dun 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 cement. Okay, so I chiseled away, right? I actually cut this a little bit shorter, and then taking some sandpaper to the edges of it to make sure that it's all right. I did a dry fit already, and it's much further down, and it seems to be more flush. Although I do have a crooked pipe, apparently this side actually comes up a little bit more so than this side. So, I mean, I might have a little wobble, but I can always fix a tiny wobble versus 3/4 of an inch of a wobble, which I had prior to replacing this flange. So I'm going to go ahead and prime it again, both sides, and then use the actual cement to go ahead and put it in. Hopefully I do it right. Thanks goes out to my nephew. My arms are pretty much killing me because I already cut this once. So he helped me cut it again. So appreciative. And I am bleeding somewhere again. Oh well. Yay. This was already from taking the toilet apart. And I got somewhere on my wrist too from leaning on this debris. But I'm a tough one, so I don't care. I'm just curious where it's coming from. Anyway, I'll be back. Okay, so I went ahead and I primed it with this. It's supposed to, apparently from what I read online, is make the PVC pliable and loosen it up so that way it's a tighter fit. And then I went ahead and I added the clear PVC cement, and I went ahead and I put the bolts in. Now I'm not securing it to the floor in itself. Oh, and by the way, the blood was from my knee. Apparently, there's so much debris on the floor, I used my knee. So I'm not securing it to the floor. Now, when I took the level, I noticed it's still off. I tried to compensate and pull up one side so the cement, would set that way, but I thought about it and it's probably better to compensate with caulking and the ring. Now, most people use the wax ring, but when I first installed this toilet, about a week went by and I ended up having a leak from it. I tried another wax ring, and it was just a pain in the ass with one person, especially me. I am not the strongest person, although I like to think of myself as one. Anyway, I got this guy. This guy has been great. I've had this toilet on here for a couple months now with that, and I haven't had one single leak whatsoever. So hopefully with this new flange I won't. I'm going to try it out. If anything, I might have to get a new rubber ring for the toilet to sit on with the new flange, so that way it kind of molds to it. But we shall see. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and clean up around the toilet, and I'm going to go ahead and put the toilet on. Pretty straightforward. Use the bolts, find the holes. Now me, I got this toilet because I do not like to clean, and when I do clean, I'm kind of anal. There's no dust collecting area on this flat toilet, and there's covers for this. So I wanted a toilet that was going to be easier for me to clean my bathroom, because I can't stand the dust formation that falls on normal toilets that have the screw and everything outside of the toilet. So that's my suggestion if you're one to be more efficient. I am all about efficiency, so that would be my suggestion, and it's worked out really great. The only thing with this toilet is like I have the flow on it really low, so I have gotten a couple clogs, and So I'm gonna adjust the flow so there's more water in it. And to be honest with you, I feel like I cleaned this thing more than I did my old toilet. But like I said, that also might be because I have it on very little water in the actual tank that formulates. So, you know, you can adjust that. Now, I'm not an expert by any means. I've definitely done some trial and error. This is the third time I've placed this toilet. As I mentioned, I used 2 wax rings before. And then I finally used the rubber one and it worked great. And then the toilet rocked way too much because I had 3/4 of an inch between the tile and the toilet, and it would rock constantly, and I couldn't find anything to fill that gap. So I went ahead and I replaced the flange. So I shall be back when I have everything, or at least the toilet on, and I'll show you what I mean. If you've never installed a toilet at all, I mean, it's just doing it backwards from removing it. So I'll go ahead and do that so that way you know how to remove it. You just play the video backwards, I guess. Anyway, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so I've got the toilet on with the screw going through the holes of the toilet. And since the last time I videotaped, I also took down the tile in the back and around the toilet because my mom told me after I put in this cabinet that she wants to change it to wood. So I went ahead and took it out because it's going to be easier to just put the wood on. I mean, it's just going to take a couple screws. The only thing I got to do is make sure I have a hole for that. But there's a plate on it, and I just weld it to the plate, or caulk it to the plate, so the baseboard to the plate, so I'll be all right. So what you're going to do is should have 2 of these. This one's got some wax on it because I used a wax ring previously. As I showed you before, the rubber seal, that's what I used for the toilet. Now, my gap is not nearly as bad as it was, which is awesome, because I was literally 3/4 of an inch off the ground. So I'm going to use these wedges, and I'll actually only have to use 1 of these, probably in the front of the toilet, and then to secure it all evenly in the back. And then that little gap should be fine for me to caulk around. Now, before I had 3/4 of an inch, so I literally had 3 of these piled on top of each other. These are plastic and they move, so it was not ideal. Now, singularly, I mean, you have some grip here. So I would say personally to put it like this, so that way it holds onto the toilet, since the toilet is porcelain, versus the tile, which is more slippery. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to put these underneath, and then you're going to take your level and make sure that your toilet is even. Now, although this house is 79, it was built, and we're the second owners, we've lived here for 30 odd years. This is the first time we've actually replaced this toilet and the cabinetry. So I've had to adjust. But that's with anything. You always have to make adjustments and figure out what you got to do. So I'm going to go ahead and work these wedges around, try to even it out. And then I'm going to put the tank on. And then I'm going to make sure that it's all level again. Now with the tank, there's little holes. See these screws here. Sorry, right there. Those go through these holes here. And then you have these that come on the other side. Now this toilet actually came with this, which is really handy because you can get your hand in the back here and be able to screw it. And then you just take the flathead in the tank itself to hold the screw in so it doesn't move. So I'm going to work on that, and I will show you the end result with at least the tank and the evening out and leveling. Back because I made a rookie mistake, which is okay because we learn from mistakes. I actually started leveling it out prior to securing. So make sure you secure these bolts first, then level it. Now, it rocked just a tad bit, So what I did was I used the wedges in the back of the toilet. That way it wouldn't be noticeable in the front if I wasn't able to get it all the way in. I was, so they are there. They have a little bit there. Now, the way I did it for, you have to hammer it, you know, and that's a tight space. So what I did was I used another one of these and I put it in the back. Let me use the other one actually, since that one's more visible. So I put it right here where the back of it is, and then I used this part of the hammer to get it all the way in. Now, there's a little lip right there, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it in a little bit more. That way it's not visible. And when I do the caulking, I won't have any issues back there. As I mentioned, it is level. So when I put the tank on, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it is level there as well. Now it should be, but I like to double check and just make sure everything's kosher, because you are going to be adding a good amount of weight in the back with all the water within the tank. So it's good to just double check and make sure everything is put. So I just kind of sit on the toilet and I'll rock back and forth and double check and make sure everything's good to go. I personally wouldn't caulk it until a week from now. And my reasoning is because you want to make sure it's not leaking. As I mentioned, the rubber seal that I put in there to join the two was used previously when I was 3/4 off the floor. So it might have warped to be able to fit the way it was with the other flange. So I want to make sure that I don't have any leaks, because that's just going to be more of a headache for me to take the caulking off and then undo the toilet and redo everything again. So me personally, I hate caulking. It's a pain and it's a sticky mess. So that would be my suggestion. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it for now. I'm going to put the tank on. I'll level it out, and I'll show you what I had done in that video, because it's hard to do everything by myself and videotape. So I'm sorry I can't do both at the same time. But hopefully this is helping somebody else, because it definitely would have helped me quite a bit, because everybody seemed to have skipped the flange part, and that was probably the most difficult part for me to figure out. I honestly spent like 3 weeks contemplating it in the back of my head, because that's how I work. I try to find the most effective way to do something. So I played with a couple ideas, and then I realized that that was going to be the best route. So I'm going to stop right now, and then you guys will see me in a second anyway. I guess I shouldn't even say that, because it's just going to keep going anyway. Whatever. All right. Okay. So I went ahead and I put the tank on. As I mentioned, the bolts here, usually I just straddle the toilet backwards. There's bolts underneath that you use this for to hold it. You can either screw it from the top or do it from the bottom. Personally, I like using this at the bottom. Now, my biggest issue has always been our water that comes out. It doesn't even really stop I mean, it's like slowly comes out when you actually turn off. By the way, I probably should have said, make sure you turn off your water, because that would be a bloody mess. And I'm not British. I just like saying that because I think it's great. Make sure you turn off your water when you empty out your toilet. And when you do that, you just flush and try to get as much water as you can out of the toilet. You more than likely will get water on the floor. And you can do it by yourself. I mean, if you have some strength, if you're able to do, I say like 40 pounds, 30, 40 pounds probably, maybe more. So I usually just put it in the tub, but if you got a new toilet, you won't have to worry about the water. But to remove the old toilet, you're going to have to do that. So if that doesn't make sense, let me know and I'll explain that better. But anyway, so when I put the hose to the bottom, which connects to this piece, which brings in the water, after I'm done, and you know, depending on your hose, if it's got a rubber piece in it, you don't really need to use plumber's tape. If it doesn't, if you use your old equipment, which probably doesn't have the rubber piece in it, you might want to use plumber's tape. You can find it at the store. It's really thin. It's pliable. You put it around the, like, something, like, picture a screw, and you just put it around. And for whatever reason, I can't turn this around on me so I can actually, like, look at you. I don't know. Used to have that capability. For some reason, I can't anymore. Anyway, so you just wrap it around inside the tread of the... Man, I wish I had something. Oh, that's right. These were... By the way, if you get this and you can't get them off, use a spoon. I couldn't get it off. My nephew couldn't. My nephew's like 21 years old. He's a big, beefy dude, really strong. And he couldn't get them off. So I used a spoon to lift from here, and it literally just popped off. No problems. I even used one of those grip things. So word of the wise. So now you can also adjust your toilet if depending on your equipment. This screws. So you can see a screw here that adjusts how much water gets in here in the toilet, because, you know, back in the day I used to put a brick in the toilet, so that way, because you didn't have that adjustment feature, but now they do, the newer toilets. So that just tells you how much water. Now I had it really low, and I ended up having to clean my toilet more often. So I've adjusted it and put more water in here, and hopefully that'll work. So when you do the screws in the toilet, and when you connect your water to the toilet, what I like to do is I take a towel and I dry off the ends of it, and then I feel around to make sure that it's tight and there's no water leakage. Wait like 5 minutes. Yeah, it's still bone dry, so I have no issues whatsoever right now. So I'm gonna wait a week, like I mentioned. I'm gonna wait a week, and yes, that's the squatty potty. It's freaking awesome. I'm gonna wait a week and then put the caulking around the toilet, make sure that it's all sealed and I have no leaks from the toilet to the flange that I installed. Installing the toilet in itself, the toilet seat, is fairly easy. Depending on the toilet, you should honestly be able to read those instructions. If you really have difficulties with installing a toilet by yourself, I honestly would just say don't do it, to be honest with you. Some people have those skills, some people don't, which makes it difficult for me because I do, and a lot of the guys that I've dated in the past didn't, and they wanted to. So, but then they had difficulties listening to a woman take charge. Anyway, neither here nor there. But, so yeah. So you'll put these down, and then you'll just screw it in to the black there. Put your lid on, and you're good to go. Be the king or queen of your castle, once again. Drain the pipes. Hopefully this was somewhat helpful. I'm sorry it was so long. This is my first how-to video. So if it actually does something or helps anybody, then it's done its job. So leave a comment, let me know if this was helpful or if it's not, because honestly I don't want to get people to open my stuff up and then find out it's not helpful at all, and might as well just delete it so that way it doesn't trash up the place whenever you're doing a search engine. So yeah, my name's Jessica once again. Thanks for watching. And like I said, if you have any questions in regards to anything that I said because it was too vague, please let me know in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to try to explain it to you. Like I said before, I am not a professional. I am one of those people that I can watch somebody do something and it's permanently fixed in my brain. and then I reanalyze the information that I remembered and I clarify it with a professional. And that's basically what I've done to get to this point. So I'm not a professional, but I've consulted them, if that makes sense. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Hope it was helpful. Have a great day or night.